everybody, what is up? My name is Mackenzie.
And I'm Jonathan.
We are husband and wife, and we'd like to welcome you to TerreDice.
And today we're gonna give you our first Park Avenue update.
Now, what is Park Avenue, you say? Well, for those that are new or maybe haven't heard, we are the designers of Park Avenue, and this has been our passion project, our baby, for almost 2 years now. We have been working so hard at bringing this game to life, and we are so excited today to bring you guys more updates, tell you guys a little bit about the team, when this game is coming to Kickstarter, and more. So, if that sounds like something you want to see, then just keep watching.
All right, so Park Avenue, for those who are not familiar, who haven't caught our recent stuff on Instagram, or we actually 6 months ago did a live feed on our channel where we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But just to give an updated description, Park Avenue is a game where you will spend a day in the life of a New York City dog walker. You'll do this by picking up and dropping off dogs from different neighborhoods and balancing competing needs. Now, you may have 2 to 3 dogs at a time, and they may all have different priorities, and that's okay. So it is your job to figure out how to get them where they need to go and get them home on time.
Yes, so this is definitely we like to call it a pick up and deliver route optimization game, and it does take place in New York City. And for those that don't know, this is a play on words. Park Avenue is a play on words of a famous street in New York that's called Park Avenue. So Park Avenue, dogs, yeah. It's cute. I'm really happy with it.
During this game, we want you to really feel like you are a New York City dog walker. So that means you are going to be looking at those cards and they're going to be so cute, and you're going to see those dogs.
Yeah.
And you're going to also have some challenges. There might be a small dog who doesn't get along with a big dog. It means you can't walk them at the same time. They might also have different favorite activities. One likes to go to the park. One likes to just sniff fire hydrants all day. And so you're going to have to try to do those things so that you can get tips, become a better walker, and advance in your reviews, which are sort of how you build your engine and get more abilities and more powers. Yeah. There's also these dice, which dice can be an interesting thing in a game. In this, it just gives you nice, just barely a little bit of chaos. But basically, if you are in the city, you're gonna roll the city die. If you're in the park, you're gonna roll the park die. And what this might do, you might get a poop, which is great. You'll get those little squishy poops, little rubber poops. You might also get your dog wants to run, or maybe your dog just pees. There's a little puddle, nothing happens. If you go to the park, you'll have a much better chance of your dog pooping. You might even get the golden nugget, which is a gold foil poop on one side, which means all your dogs poop, and that is a great thing. It's the only game where a crappy roll is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. This game we have tried to make it as accurate as possible, and we have consulted different dog walking services in the city, and including myself, because I am a former New York City dog walker, which actually ended up inspiring this game somewhat. So I was able to make sure this is as accurate as possible, and you really do feel like you were walking a dog, and you feel that struggle of the more dogs you walk at once, the harder it is. Like they all have different times when they need to get home. The little dogs cannot go as far, and they're not going to be able to go as far. Yeah. So you could get punished if you do not return those dogs home in time.
Yeah.
And so it is a very interesting balance of this game. But what I love about this game, it is very accessible. So that was one of our goals. We wanted this to be people to be able to pick up and play it. This is, I would classify it as a Gateway Plus game. So that is what we are currently classifying it as. It's a game where you can truly grow with it and get better and better.
Yeah. But we still mix up our strategies. Every time we play this game, it's like, I usually lose now, actually. I lose most of the time, but it is very competitive, and we're really happy with like how far you can really push the strategy with the game. Yeah,
so the game runs about 45 minutes. It plays up to 5 players. It does have a 2-player mode as well. We very much made sure that it had a great 2-player mode.
Yes, and we're actually developing a solo mode with somebody as well, which will be more about that later.
Yeah, currently teaming up with another designer, which we unveil soon. But for all those solo players, we got you. You'll be able to walk those dogs. But there'll still be competition. So throughout the game, you'll be able to walk, as he said, like some big dogs don't get along with small dogs, vice versa. There'll also be solo dogs, which means you can't walk them with anybody. Yeah. But if you go treat training, they might be able to warm up a little. And then there will also be foster dogs, which are actually going to be, I'll talk about this more later. They will be based off of real life foster dogs throughout New York City. And you will walk them for free, but they will help rate you in abilities and get you more tips and help overall. So that does do well for you.
There's also event cards. So every couple turns, there's going to be some events, which will give you some very, very just New York feels. So there might be the New York City Marathon, which means you can't enter or leave Central Park this round. They've got it locked down.
Yeah.
It might be modified service. You can't take the subway. Classic weekend service. So
our hope for this game is that if you aren't from New York and you aren't familiar with it, you're going to love it. It's going to be a super fun, lighthearted game. Sometimes this game is challenging, but because the theme is like so fun, people don't even realize it. They're just playing it on their own.
Yeah.
But if you are from New York City, or if you're familiar with it, I really hope you catch the heart that went to this game. We really tried to capture this city and make it as close to as accurate as possible. And even all the frustrating things about the city we also included. And for all those dog walkers out there, I know you will find this to be true. So how did we come up with this? Where did it start?
Yeah, so it was the beginning of the pandemic, and we were like, "Hey, we got a couple weeks. Let's design a board game." It didn't go quite like that, but
it took some convincing on his end.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he's been trying to get me to design a board game for a while, and I was like,
long time, yeah. So I'm a game designer at heart. I grew up designing video games, and my dad before me did video games before he did what he does now. Yeah. And so there's lots of just game making in our family. We love making games. We love making logic puzzles. I love games where you got to try to figure out how to jump from that cliff to that cliff and like solve those riddles. And so it's always been kind of a part, but we'd never designed a board game before.
Yeah, and I come from a musical theater background, so I love creativity and bringing things to life and telling a story. So that's our engineering and theatrical brain have put this together.
Yes.
But yeah, when he said, "What if we made a dog walking board game on the streets of New York?" And I was like, okay, that's too good to pass up. Yes. That this was inspired by me as a New York dog walker, the pandemic, and also our sweet puppy, Emma, who is this sweet little red puppy on the cover. We got her the week we started designing Bark Avenue. So she has served as this mascot this entire time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to give a couple updates today, but you want to talk about the team?
Yep, let's talk about the team. So that is how Bark Avenue started, and we've been designing it and doing graphic design by ourselves for a long time, but now we have brought on new team members, and the Bark Avenue team has definitely grown. So I want to introduce them. First, I want to talk about the artist that did this box cover. This is by Chris Martinetti. He is brand new board games, but not new to the art space. We are so happy to have him, and you actually have a really interesting story on how we got Chris.
Yeah. So I was sitting in jury duty, and it was not a very exciting case. And I'm sitting next to this guy who's drawing on his iPad. He's drawing like Batman and all this cool stuff. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. It looks pretty nice. And he's like, oh yeah, I work with DC, AT&T, do all that. And I was like, whoa, what? So he's like a legit artist, and he's done a bunch of really cool like commercial spots with LeBron James and like all these type of things. It's really, really cool. But we stayed in touch. We like another year or two later, we're like, hey, I wonder what happened to that case. And then at that time we were working on Bark Avenue, and we said, hey, you're an artist. I'm sure you get asked by all your friends all the time, but can you do some concept art for us? And he's done a lot more than concept art now. We were like, whoa, this is our box cover. It looks great. He's also done all of our event cards in the game, and then he's working out on our board. So the game board, like the city that you see underneath where you're walking. And oh my gosh, yeah, it's starting to come together, and it's looking really, really nice. Yeah. I think we just have to give a big thank you to Chris, because he was the first person who really took a leap on this project when we had no credentials essentially in the board game space. So
we really appreciate Chris, and I will someday show you guys the very first drawing that Jonathan did of this when we were coming up with this concept. I mean, the fact that Chris took it from what Jonathan gave him to this is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think there was a chihuahua with a mustache and a sombrero.
Well, it was very late at night. That was not the serious concept for the box cover. No, this was always the vision, and I think Chris really helped fulfill that vision.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Chris, but I want to talk about this logo here. So this logo was done by Cold Castle Studios, which is an awesome team that actually has been known for bringing lots of different logos and different illustrations for different games to life. And so we're very happy to have them on the team.
Check out their website. They've got some pretty sweet stuff under their belt.
Super easy to work with. And they really help bring this to life. We weren't sure what to do with the logo. We knew we needed it to be New York, but dog themed, and we had kind of run with this concept, but we had no idea how to make it work. And they just, like, when they showed it to us, I was like, oh, that's so obvious. Like, yes, that's what it needs to be.
Yeah, it was so good. And oh my gosh, they run a tight ship. Like, we started and they're like, here's the proofs, here's the concepts, and then boom, we had a final, and it was so close. And we're like, okay, if we do this, then it's perfect. And then they gave it to us the next day, and it was like, we're done.
Very, very fast.
It was awesome.
Wonderful to work with.
Yeah.
So that's Cold Castle. And so now the next one onto our team was our graphic designer. So up until this point, I had been doing the graphic design, which really helped for playtesting, but we really needed...
Yeah, this is one of the original prototype boards for... we'll talk about this in a sec, but
we really needed someone to come in and take my ideas and polish it. Because this is my first graphic design project, and Akha has been doing wonderful. She has been in board games for Dr. Finn's. So if you're familiar with Dr. Finn's game, she did all the graphic design for Biblios, Quill and Parchment, and Butterfly Garden.
Illustration too, And Akha she also recently did a couple Kickstarters that were gonna get published that have not launched yet. Pizza and Bugs and a couple of that looked really, really good. But what Akha's bringing to the table, she's bringing expertise in like printing and colors and bleed and all the stuff that we know nothing about, like how to make things just like look cohesive. And then also she's brought some really, really great design ideas that have really, I'm really happy with where the card layout is now, which is just really nice.
Because our goal with Bark Avenue is to make it as accessible as possible. We want this to be, Bark Avenue is designed to be a Gateway Plus game, but we want this to be a game that you can grow a lot with it, but the pickup should not be that difficult. So graphic design, you don't realize it when you're playing a board game, but it's so important for players to understand and pick up those rules very quickly. Graphic design make or breaks that. So we've been really working closely with that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So that's Akha. And now our last person on the team, and most recently, is April. And April has been doing all of the dog art for Bark Avenue. So we're gonna have about 60 dog cards in total created for this game. So it's individual portraits. And I'll pop up some of the ones that I'll unveil some that she's done here. And they are fabulous. If you aren't familiar with April, you should be, because she did art for Flourish over at Starling Games and is amazing at bringing characters and animals to life. After getting to talk to April for a little bit, we found out that she actually used to be a pet portrait artist. So that was fabulous.
Too good. Too perfect.
All of the dogs in Bark Avenue are actually going to be based off real life dogs, including the examples you see here. So she is fabulous at bringing those dogs to life.
I'm so happy with how they're turning out. And it's just like, she gives us the draft and it's like, how does this look? And we're like, perfect. You're done. So it's just been so amazing. Yes, so that is our art team. And we did actually bring on another person recently. So Brenna and the Quilsilver team, who brought to life a bunch of games like the original Everdells when all those were coming out. And then more recently, they've been launching a bunch of other games on Kickstarter and have been doing games of their own. Now they're a full like graphic design and like design studio and all this other stuff. But they are actually going to be helping us with our Kickstarter campaign. They're going to help us with marketing. They're going to help make sure we get our name out there and that folks know about this game when they have a chance to back it. And I think she's going to do a really good job. She knows the market. She challenged a lot of our assumptions where we're like, oh, this seems like the best place to advertise. And she kind of knew better. So she's already helped us out with like figuring out the dimensions of things and a couple of the things we need to know to prepare our ads.
So really happy to have her on board to assist us. And then our last, manufacturing, I want to briefly touch on that. So we will be having Panda Games. They will be manufacturing Bark Avenue. So they are responsible for manufacturing games, like pretty much all of the Stonemaier games, that they are responsible for them, and many others.
But Wingspan, more than that, like Pandemic and like all the main games you get on the shelf.
And I love Panda. We are really lucky to be able to get with them. It was like a fluke accident. We ran into them at Gen Con, and they're really happy to be on the project. And Panda Games Games is a fabulous company that does amazing work, top-notch facilities over in China. They're based out of Canada and America, but those facilities are in China. But they treat their workers very high quality. I'm really happy that we get to work with Panda.
Yeah, it's going to be really great. So we've already gotten a quote from them. We need to update that based on some stuff we're talking about today, actually. But that's the team so far. We've also had a lot of other people just helping out behind the scenes. A lot of people consulting us. We've had over 50 people play test the game in person, which is just amazing. So we've gotten really great feedback. And then we've just had some other folks in the industry who've kind of helped us how to do our contracts with folks, how to work through the details of running a board game business.
Yeah, so everyone's been fabulous and really open to helping. So that's been really great. Now I want to, what do you want to talk about now?
Let's give a progress report on where things are.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's one thing that actually Jamie Stegmeyer over at Stonemaier Games does that I really, really love. If you are a Stonemaier champion, you get this email that comes in that basically says this is where each of the games in our lineup is currently at. It says has the art been done? Has the graphic design been done? Has the playtesting, manufacturing, shipping? So I think we should give a quick progress report. So we already talked about art and graphics, probably about 60% done. So everything is functionally 100% done. But in terms of the finals, we're still working through that. The game design, the game is finished. It is designed, and we are so happy. We have written our initial rulebook, and it's totally fleshed out, and it's the way it's going to be kind of, I think, for the launch of the Kickstarter and the prototype. So very, very happy about that. In terms of the rest of the things we have to do before the Kickstarter, we've already reached out to Kickstarter just to confirm a couple things about our plan and how we want to do some of the tiers and the backing, which we'll talk about later. But we're good on that. We've already talked to our advertising and marketing. We're good to go on that front. We are planning on launching on May 24th. So that is our date right now. We're hoping to stick to it with everything we got. So that is the plan, and I think we can do it.
Tuesday, May 24th. Mark your calendars.
Yeah. So
2022, not next year.
So for folks who are wondering, we've already, I think, decided on a couple of the reviewers that we know we're going to be reaching out to do some of the prototypes that we have not reached out to almost anyone yet. So we will be reaching out to folks in the near future about we know when we like to hear, so we're going to make sure we give people enough time. So that's going to be coming up soon, but we'll be having a couple folks who are going to be getting review prototypes to be able to have during April and kind of be ready for the Kickstarter in May.
And this is interesting because we're used to being approached in this end, but now we're the approachers. Be like, do you want to do this game? So it's been an interesting process, but yes. May 24th. That is the date.
Mark calendars.
Right now, everything seems to be moving very well toward that date. I'm really happy with how everything is progressing. So unless anything drastically changes, that will probably be the day.
We want this to be one of those Kickstarters where when it launches, it is ready to go. We're not asking you for your money so that we can design a game and we can play and try to come up with something good. We want this to be a product that we're let's go manufacture, let's do this. So there will be one thing that we have to get done after the Kickstarter. That is because we're going to have some space for people to put their dogs in the game. So people are going to have the opportunity to put their dog in Bark Avenue. Now, it won't just be any dog. We're going to have some size limits, and basically there'll be some small dogs, some medium dogs, some big dogs, because that's a big part of how Bark Avenue works. But I'm very, very excited to share more about that in the future.
It is a puzzle that we are trying to work out because we don't want 50 Pomeranians in Bark Avenue. Even though they're great. So that will be something. Just keep an eye on this channel as I hope to do regular updates, and keep an eye on this as we give more details on how you can get your dog in the game.
Yes. Yeah. And we are going to share a playthrough and experience with that. Very, very soon. There will be more of that type of content, but we're so close to getting the graphic design finished on the board, for instance, that we really want to do that before we show that off. So that will be in a later
There will be a playthrough. All of that is coming. So that's great.
Okay, so there is one topic I wanted to talk about today that's a bit of a design vlog topic, and that is our number of tokens. So we get to trim this down a little bit, which is nice. Basically, we have 5 tokens in the game that track different aspects of your walk. And also some tips, which are great. That's your expendable victory points you get in the game. But basically, when we first started, we wanted to make sure we had enough, so we just put enough on the table that you could play.
Basically the max number that any player could use.
Yeah. But as we started to play, we're like, how many of these are people actually using? And we found out like the coffees, for instance, as one of the tokens in the game, people only used about 8 in a whole game. There'd be at most 8 in use when we had like 20 on the table. And so we realized we could actually trim down a lot, save the environment, save the cost of like the shipping and the just like what's in the box, and also just like save your table space. Nobody wants a giant pile of tokens when you don't really need it. And so we were able to figure that out. The way we did it was during a game, we would basically say, if it's in the bucket, this is new stuff. And then anytime we used it, we pulled it out and we used it. When we were done with it, when we discarded it outside the tray. So then if somebody else took it, they took the one that was outside. And so basically we only took a new one from the tray whenever there weren't any left to take. And that's how we were able to come up with a much more accurate number. So we did that with all of our recent playtests at PAX Unplugged, and just started to track like how many are people actually using, and we have a much more realistic number.
So it's basically where we are in the design process right now, is really trying to figure out, it's something you don't think about when you initially start designing a game, is like production, like going into production costs, like how many things you actually need. And so this is, if we have designers out there that haven't thought about that, that has been something really helpful to us. And that's what we're currently working on. So if you wonder what we're doing behind the scenes, we're counting coffee tokens and cubes to make sure we don't give you too many because it's unnecessary, or give you too little. So that's what we're currently working on. All right, guys, and that is an update for Bark Avenue. We hope to be doing this maybe once a month, giving you guys an update and a sneak peek and a little interviews. But yeah, this is Emma, for those of you guys that don't know, the Bark Avenue mascot. She has definitely served as inspiration throughout this whole process. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all of your support. If you want to keep up to date with Bark Avenue, I have left a link down below. You can join our newsletter, which is a once a month newsletter that I send out with all of the progress about Bark Avenue. I've been sending it out for close to 6 months now. So if you want to keep up to date and be one of the first people to know, sign up down below and you will get the inside scoop. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know whenever we put out a new video. And we'll see you next time.
Happy playing!